thought we wait till
We got a half a
everybody
minute
got
yet.
signed in.
Hi, Kathy.
Okay.
How are ya?
I'm fine.
Good.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Well, Dennis is in charge, so.
All right, looks like everybody's signed in. It's been here, gonna be here at this second. So we call the August 4th, 2026 Columbia City BZA zoning appeal meeting to order. We have the roll call of members.
Kathy Gardner,
Here.
Patricia Hatcher, John Kissinger, Lyle Michael,
Here.
Dennis Warnick.
Here. Previous minute meetings, I think we had those. Okay.
If there's no corrections by anyone else, I'll make a motion to approve them as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call. Are we on the air? Are we got anybody watching?
I think that's only if you have a participant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Virtual.
You're fine.
Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same. So moved. Okay, oath to the witnesses.
Would anyone who plans to speak at the meeting tonight please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to offer will be the truth? If so, answer, I do. You may put your hand down and have a seat. Thank you, sir.
Old business, I did not see any. New business, 26C-VAR-4. Swihart Properties, side yard setback, northeast corner of Plaza Drive and Indiana, North State Road 109. Sir, your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, of course, I've got comments for you. I always have comments for you. Why you pay me? Oh, anyway, seriously, this is 26C-VAR-4. It is located on the west side of State Road 109, east of Armstrong Drive, north of Plaza Drive, generally located north of Walmart. Importantly, for tonight's discussion, not to exceed that number, currently the proposed phase 1 is in 2 parts. The north part would be larger lots, and that is north of an extended Armstrong Drive, which I believe you have the primary plating, and I'll show that in a second as well. And then the south part is, north part is larger lots, roughly an R2 equivalent. And I've got a table that shows you a bit more detail and some comparisons. The south part would be smaller, more affordable lots, based upon the GB minimum width of 50 feet. Not a lot size that we have particularly common in Columbia City. However, in some more urban cities, 50-foot lots are the norm, both historic lots as well as new development lots. So this isn't unheard of regionally or statewide, but in Columbia City, 50-foot wide lots are, for residences, are somewhat unusual. But that was part of what was discussed with primary plat, the idea of offering a different product, offering a different price point because of the lot size being smaller. The initial proposal actually was even smaller than 50 feet, and that was backed off of because of the need for additional variances. So the actual homes, and this is my language here, the actual homes would be similar in construction to, say, Cambridge Crossing, Timber's Edge, any of our more recent subdivisions. It's just the lot area, lot size is the difference. So essentially putting a somewhat larger home, or what fits on a larger lot elsewhere, that equivalent home onto a somewhat smaller lot, again, with the idea of these being somewhat more affordable because of that. And I'll let the petitioner go into more details of how all that works, but that's my summary of what was explained, both at primary plat stage as well as in the preparation for this variance request. Okay, so as I said, this is the this is the table of comparison of the proposed lots on the north side of that extended Armstrong Drive, and you can see their minimum lot area currently. The smallest lot in that area is about 8,500 square feet, a little over. Lot width is about 69 feet at the minimum, and then you can see the setbacks as per the GB zoning, except for the requested side setbacks of 5 feet. The south portion would use that minimum of 5,000 square feet that's allowed in GB, the 50-foot lot width, the 25-foot setback, the requested variance for a 5-foot setback, and so on. So using that GB standard to its fullest extent, as well as requesting a smaller side setback in order to put, again, an equivalent size home on that smaller lot. And then the other residential districts there are listed, and as I said, the north lots are roughly equivalent to, line up pretty well with the R2, although they are slightly wider. The lot area is about the same. And nominal lot area would actually be more than that 8542. That's just the minimum one, the smallest one. Okay, so that's the basic information, or that's the basic gist of the request for the variance. Basic information, location, highlighted there in blue. Walmart is the big white thing in the bottom center, and the rest of town, Country Plaza and Plaza Drive, run east-west across the bottom of the picture. This is the primary plat. As I mentioned, Armstrong Drive currently goes up to this point, and then the city and developer would extend Armstrong Drive over to 109. Not that it matters too much with this variance, but for everybody's benefit, that intersection itself may take a little while to figure out with NDOT because of design considerations. In any case, it would also connect to an extended Walton Drive here. So there would be a loop fairly early on as a collector. These would be larger lots, and then these would be smaller. And as I said, if you look really closely at this primary plat, some of these smaller lots are, as originally proposed, pretty small, and even below that 50-foot GB standard. So this is how it would lay out over the aerial, again, for reference. So this is the refined site plan that was presented as part of tech review. You can see that lot lines are much more defined, areas are defined, widths are better defined, and so on. Again, you guys know the platting process. Primary plat sets over an overall arrangement. You have tech review that gives you your construction drawings. The final secondary plat that gets recorded is based upon actual construction, so there may still be a few tweaks here and there during construction, but everything would still exceed the minimums. But you might have, instead of a certain degree of bearing on a lot line during construction, it may wind up changing by a degree or something like that. So those are the nature of changes as we go through the planning process. So still one more step after this, but the overall primary plat is shown. The area that is not highlighted, these two areas are phase 1. This is future phase, and this small piece right here of Armstrong Drive is what I would call phase 1B. It will be completed kind of in a lagging fashion due to various reasons, dealing with construction, not so much with the zoning regulations. Again, not necessarily related to the variance in question, but for your information. And then I guess I highlighted each one of these. So this is the draft secondary plat of the north part. If we need to reference it, we can. and then the draft secondary plat for the south part. Again, this is probably section 1 of maybe 2 or 3 of that southern area. Okay, this is one of 2 slides, basically giving you some examples of what could be built on the smaller lots, and the petitioner can correct me if I'm wrong on some of these details. But if there was no variance granted, these are the types of homes that could be built, or that they would be looking to build, let's say that. You'll notice that the top one, 24 feet wide, 1-car garage, no bedrooms on the first floor, what they call a tight layout. That's eye of the beholder. 1,500 square feet, 3-bed, 2.5 bath, townhouse vibes. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but still a nice looking product, but definitely a different character. The second one would fit in certain instances. Similar situation, though, would be 1-car garage, no bedroom on the first floor. That's being highlighted because one of the current markets is to have a bedroom on first floor. If you have 2-story, slightly larger, 2,100 square feet. So I give them credit. They're not trying to say we can't build without a variance. They're giving you the illustration of, if we don't get the variance, this is what would happen, and what the market considerations are. On the other hand, what they've submitted for what they could build with setbacks of 5 feet, much wider, 36 feet wide, of course 10 feet wider than the previous one, which allows for a 2-car garage, allows for an acceptable 1-story building or 2-story, 1.5 sort of situation, larger square foot, generally more open layout, and so on. I'm not trying to sell this, I'm just relaying their information. And I believe these are a particular builder, but there are other builders that are out there that could also be in the same position. Personally, in my experience, I would also echo the same thing that they submitted. Generally, when you have a wider buildable area, you have more 2-car garages, you have a better balance between the garage and the rest of the facade, which aids to the aestheticness that you're seeing here versus the previous slide, where the garage has to be narrowed in order to make a better aesthetic. You could have a 2-car garage on the previous one, but your doorway would be the only other piece of the facade. You'd have garage and a front door, which I have seen, and I can give you pictures of if you wish, but I would really rather not ever think of those if I can avoid it, because they do not look good. Okay, so that's the submitted materials in your packet. In your printed packet, I believe you also got copies of the floor plans associated with each one of these house plans, so you can also reference that and see what it does. Going to the review criteria, I'll just use the upper one: injurious to public health, safety, morals, general welfare. Staff doesn't feel that there would be any real issues with public health or morals. Safety, fire safety is always a bit of an issue when we're looking at side yard variances because of fire safety. Keep in mind that the building code allows down to a 5-foot setback without any additional fire ratings and so on. So it is built on that 5-foot size. Generally, there's plenty of room to still maneuver around. General welfare, that definitely, if there's not practical difficulties, as I typically say, but also some idea of when you have narrower side yards, neighbors need to get along a little bit better because of potentially the need for getting on each other's property. So you might give that some consideration. Injurious might be a strong word in that way, but due consideration. Use and value of the area adjacent. Both of these criteria staff does not feel would be substantially impacted because this is largely a commercial area to the south. You have multifamily to the southwest, and then you have either future development on the rest of this property or largely undevelopable or infeasible development property to the north side of this as well. And then finally, strict application of the terms of the ordinance. Generally speaking, we are in a position where our code, the GB standards, even though it allows for single family right now, it has setbacks, side yard setbacks of 10 feet, which don't line up with the progression that you see in the R1, R2, R3 progression. It jumps back up rather than continuing going from 10 to 8 to 7 to whatever is the next. So that by itself is a difficulty. However, it's a known difficulty, so it could be overcome, but it is a difficulty in the code itself. Further, is the stated development goal, as I mentioned, to have smaller lots that are affordable because of lot size, whereas the product itself is following more of a market trend, again, rather than a more townhome style. It's more of this traditional, conventional style home that we see. So that's the goal. That does create a bit of a difficulty as well because of that. And the Planning Commission, again, in their approval of the primary plat, they did review that concept and kind of get behind it with a due amount of discussion. The overall request for both sides might be, I would suggest, might warrant some more discussion, and the idea of having 5-foot setbacks on the north side, which are larger lots anyway, that it already lines up largely with R2. The south side, again, I think the different nature of the product down there of the homes, it probably does warrant a reasonable difficulty consideration. So there's a lot more that could be said in many different ways here. I'm going to stop talking though. If you've got questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So, just for a simple clarification, the primary plat was approved with the lots to the south being less than the requirements for general business, correct? GB for the zoning.
Correct, with the condition that they would be brought up to standard, that they had to meet the minimum standards as drawn, as originally submitted for the primary plat. They were substandard.
Okay, so the Planning Commission in the primary plat approval process did not approve lots smaller than the general business designation of 5,000 square foot.
Correct.
Correct. So none of the lots being proposed here are less, they are all 5,000 square feet or more.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yes. The only thing requested is just the setback component of it. All the other lot standards are met.
Okay. And during the process of coming into the office and kind of talking with you in the very beginning about their, the ideal and the concept of the subdivision in that area, was it ever discussed as possibly rezoning the property to like an R2 or R3 zoning classification?
That was discussed, but again, other than setbacks, the GB lot standards being 5,000 square feet and so on, better fit their intended goals of smaller lots. It's just the setback that falls out of the norm, out of line with all of the other pieces.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
garage, excuse me, would probably mean much more street parking as well, I would imagine, or the potential for.
It varies. Sometimes you have neighborhoods that everyone parks in their garages, be it 2, 3, 4 car, or 1 car, or no car. They park in their driveway. Other times you have nobody parking in their garages, and you have a car stored on their driveway, and you have the streets filled. So I would think that that would be the natural thing to say, but it also varies tremendously with neighborhoods. Right. The parking requirement is still 2 off-street parking spaces, so it'd be accommodated with a 2. Even if the garage itself is 1 car wide, the driveway would still have to be 2 car wide. Most likely, I guess, with a 10-foot setback, it would be kind of skewed into that side setback rather than towards the front of the home.
Any other questions?
Not right now.
Hearing none. It's your turn. If you'd step up and state your name and address and
I'm David Brown with DA Brown Engineering, 5491 County Road 427, Auburn, Indiana. I'm here on behalf of the developer, Swihart Properties, Jerry Bushy. He is unable to make it, so I'm here presenting the project for him. Mr. Bilger did a great job explaining the background of the project. I'd like to just do a little bit more on this. Mr. Bushy bought this property. He owns businesses here, and he wants to see Columbia City grow. And one of the things we need housing for young kids, and that's the affordable. They're not able to buy houses, because the market rate on new houses, just for your reference, if you can find one under 300,000, you're lucky. So the house prices are really high all around. It's not just Fort Wayne, it's Guinea, it's Warsaw. They're all high. So with this piece of ground, we did multiple layouts, trying to come up with good ways of using this. We were looking at doing townhomes. We were looking at doing apartments. We were trying to do duplexes. We wanted to do estate lots, but we know that we needed to do commercial in some fashion on this. It's right next to the Walmart. There's tons of shopping in that area, and we need houses. So the apartments and the rentals didn't really fit the bill to getting it tighter. So we're trying to come up with a affordable first-time home buyer idea here, or someone that's downsizing. So that's where we're at this point in time. So after the primary, we've got back to the 5,000 square foot lots, and we're in a position that we think this is a good market for what we're trying to sell at this point in time. So now we are working with Choice Home Designs here in Columbia City. They're the ones who did the renderings and the floor plans for us at this point in time for what we're trying to market. This isn't going to be a one builder. Mr. Bushy's going to be trying to build. He'll try and build some of them himself, and get other builders involved as well. So there will be different people trying to look at this property. One of the things that we have encountered, and this is what I do for a living, I should have done a background. Most of my job is just development work. So I do subdivision designs all over northeastern Indiana. I think the last count, I'm at 24 different municipalities that I've worked in within the last 10 years. So for instance, I was at Board of Works for Angola last night, and I'm now here for BZA in Columbia City. So I travel quite a bit and do different areas. And one of the market trends, or one of the things that's dictating this for this first-time home buyer or the affordable, is that 2-car garage. Because starter homes, you have kids, you have a lot of stuff. They're using the garage as storage. They need places to park their cars, and having a master on the downstairs does really drive what these first-time home buyers are looking for, or this affordable housing. So we have demonstrated we can make it work with the 1-car garage. We do have developments that have worked with the 1-car garage. but it's tight, and it starts to limit your marketability of what you're trying to sell here. And one of the best pluses for Columbia City is you are in between Warsaw and Fort Wayne. That's also a negative because you now have houses in Warsaw and you have houses in Fort Wayne that people are looking at the houses. They're going, well, these are similar prices. That house has a 2-car garage. That has a master on the first floor. We're going to go there. So that's what we're trying to eliminate here and trying to come up with something that we can come with affordable. So one of the things with development is your cost, it's per foot. So the developer, it's per foot of street. So if you have a 50, and right now, and the price keeps going up, but that's $1,300 a lineal foot. So if you have a 50-foot wide lot, the nominal price is $65,000, just right off the get-go. That's what it is. That's the market that'll be if you're trying to buy one in Avila or Ligonier or Angola or Huntertown or Warsaw. That's a comparable price right now. So that's $65,000. The 60-foot wide lot, you're coming at $78,000. And on that lot, if we have the 10-foot build lines, we're losing 10 feet. Is basically what it comes down to, because we're asking for 5 on either side, 10-foot setbacks, rather than the 20. That gives us 10 more feet to work in a garage, a little bit more place for off-street parking, a slightly bigger house. So that's what's driving it. The depth helps a little bit, but if you're narrow and long, you still have to have the 1 car here, and you got to push the house up, or you're going really long. It's just the way it works. So that's what we're trying to. That's what we're asking for, is to give us a little bit more beneficial for building a house, and also make this more marketable to keep the young kids or the people that need a house here in Columbia City. So that's the backstory of what we're trying to do here. Like I said, we didn't want to do apartments. We didn't want to do duplexes. The idea here was if we're doing single family residences, people can own these things. And with that, having a slightly wider house will make that work. So this is nitpicky, and I hate to get too more into numbers, because I know when you start throwing numbers out, it makes people daze and go to sleep. So I apologize. But when we ask for the 5-foot side yards, when they go to build, or you get a plot plan from the builder and they go into planning, virtually always they're trying to give an additional 6-inch of wiggle room, is what we call it, just some fluff. So it's really 5.5 feet is the widest. And we do that because we're building these things out in the dirt. So it gets staked by a surveyor. You have the concrete trencher come in. People make mistakes. So we're trying to give them a little bit of wiggle room. So it's very, very rare that you have a house that's right on the 5-foot setback. So normally, instead of just 10 feet in between houses, 11 feet would be more the norm, instead of just 10. But I know it's a foot, but it is a foot. So that's and just really quick on the street parking. Nathan did hit that. We do have issues on other projects where we have had just a single car garage that they start having parking issues, and so we've actually come in and done off-street parking for the community so that they have a better place to park. So the 2-car garage would give a little bit more flexibility because they have more storage room in the structure, and then they would also have just a little bit more room. Even though I will point out, we did agree in the primary that even if we are restricted and we have to have the 10-foot side yards, we're still going to provide a 2-car driveway to each house. So that won't, we're not asking to take that away. And just one last thing that I forgot to bring up. With the community that we're trying to build here, we have the through street, but you can see that we have the subdivision off the through street on both sides. So we didn't put houses on that through street trying to cram as more houses. We actually are losing some ground there. We could have made this more dense if we wanted to, but we felt that would be better for that sense of community, have nicer houses. People would feel more comfortable coming home when you just didn't have people flying by the Armstrong connected. So I appreciate your time. Is there any questions? Kind of flew through that really quick. So.
Do you have any right now, Lyle? I've got some.
Go ahead.
So does Mr. Bushy have in mind anybody that he's kind of looking at as a builder for these?
What he's talked about. He's going to kind of build them himself. He's going to work with Choice Home Designs for the custom. I said choice because it's custom homes. Sorry, it would be doing the design, and he would be kind of marketing for some of these himself. I know he's had conversations with Granite Ridge and Matt Lancia, Signature Homes, that have done building over here. MBN is another one. There's a fourth, and it's escaping me at the moment. So he's also contracted. He's had preliminary conversations with those people as well on building homes.
Do you know if the square footage of these renderings does that include the garage? Or
That is purely living space. Is normally how that's listed out. So that would just be the living space.
And then in looking at the aerial photograph, if Nathan could you show me on the aerial photograph where this section that we're seeing as far as the plat goes kind of falls within that? It's kind of, let's see here.
I can go point or yeah,
Okay,
it's over here on the west. It's this west end. So we're gonna the plan is to start right off of this street, and these are the smaller homes, which would be on this side, and then this section are the larger homes that would be on the north side.
Okay.
But this street for right now would be constructed right now.
So the blue that's showing as a pond there is
currently
not there. Is it
correct?
Like, okay.
Yeah. So right now, as part of this site work, they'll be moving all the earth and making sure the drainage works, and there'll also be a pond in this area for the stormwater detention for the project.
Overhang for the proposed homes.
For the awning, or like the eaves, I didn't see that it was dictated out. I know it ranges between 12 and 14 inches is the modern spec.
Right.
Is normally, I think up to 16, but 16 inches seems to be like a higher end, like $700,000 homes.
So an overhang goes into that setback, which then makes the overhang 4 feet then from the property line.
Correct. Yeah, the state code for the building code goes to foundation. So your foundation for the structure just needs to be 5 foot on the side yard.
And when you were talking about the $65,000, for that was for the lot.
That is just the lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's there's a rule of thumb that doesn't always hold true, but it's a 4-to-1 ratio. So if you buy a lot that's about $65,000, the final home price for the home buyer is going to be about $260,000. And as I said, if you look around, if you can get a home under $300,000, it's a pretty good deal at this moment for a new home.
So are they kind of, when you talk about that, so you look at the renderings here that you've given. So if you look at the 1-car garage, so is there an estimate on what you're kind of thinking that home would?
I haven't priced out the single car garage. The numbers would hold true for the 2-car garage.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're losing that additional 10 feet of house, we're taking maybe 50 square feet off, maybe a little bit more. Just figure it's 10 feet by 50. I said that wrong. 5. Wow, I'm way off. But anyway, it would be a smaller footprint. So you're still paying the same amount for the lot, but you're getting less house value for it. Is what it would come down to.
I might have a couple more later, but I hear what you guys
Okay.
have to say.
Do you have comparable neighborhoods that you're putting in now in other areas, or?
Yeah, actually, and thank you for bringing that up. Actually, right across the street at Chesapeake and Cambridge, that subdivision has a 5-foot setback on those side yards, and that's a granite. Well, the stuff on the western side was Granite Ridge, so they built a very comparable house. Those all started the western part, not the eastern part off of State Road 9, but the western part, those started in 2013 in that area, and I think they finished up 2020, somewhere there and abouts. Last building permit in there. Some
Cambridge Crossing's last building permit was 2024, I think.
Oh, okay.
They,
So
they lingered for a while.
a little bit.
Maybe it was last year.
So that particular development is a 5-foot setback, and I don't want to bring it up because I know it's Fort Wayne and Allen County, but every subdivision in Allen County has a 5-foot setback on the side yards. So, and in fact, to meet market trends, I don't want to bring this up either. To meet the market trends, Allen County's actually reduced their lot width to 40 feet for the R1, just because they need to have they need housing for affordable housing too. So right now, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but the only thing that's moving, and it's not moving like an extreme, is high end. So I mean, how many people can afford $1 million house, right? So those are moving at a slow rate. So those are moving, but people are desperately needing first-time homes. You know, you have kids that grow up. How long can they live in the basement or in the garage? They need a house. So so they're trying to react to market trends. I know I have several developments in Auburn that are 5-foot setback. The Villa has a 5-foot setback. Ligonier changed when we did one here recently. They went to 7, but their original was 15. So I mean, it was a pretty good reduction for Ligonier. So.
Timber's Edge was Brooks Langlow, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I remember that one coming before us. What about Cambridge Crossing? I don't remember. Did it have to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-foot setback?
There's a long story.
So, that dates back to long before you were on the board, Kathy, and maybe Dennis, you were probably on the Plan Commission, because Cambridge and Chesapeake were both outgrowths of Heritage Place. Heritage Place had 5-foot setbacks, and I will say that this was not the proper process. 5-foot setbacks were granted by the Plan Commission. I can't find exactly how they granted it, but somehow it was obtained, and that was for the entire Heritage Place property, which eventually became, when the developer went defunct, became Cambridge and Chesapeake. So they inherited that original development concept. The zoning itself is R3 with 5-foot setbacks, and that's why it escaped my memory to mention it to you guys. But he is right; they do have 5-foot setbacks. Many of the homes in Cambridge don't actually fully utilize that 5-foot. Chesapeake is more frequent that they actually utilize the 5 and 5.
I remember the Heritage Place because I remember the developer, and I remember when that came in because he had a concept that was a new concept for garden homes and smaller setbacks, and I remember that very distinctly. Was kind of a first of its kind, and it was definitely in this area. And then he did go, had some issues, and it didn't become a very good situation.
The way I describe it is it's a very good concept, but it was very poor execution. Because what he showed you had been done before in other locations very successfully. It just didn't work out here, and I think execution and the other troubles that the developer had added to that. So, but look at what it came after that initial piece. You had Chesapeake and Cambridge using the same development standards, but in a much different angle that they built.
Well, I remember, is this a good time for me to talk about this, or do I need to do it at a different
It's
segment?
as good as any.
Okay, all right. I remember when Mr. Langlow came before us with the Timber's Edge for the 5-foot setback. I think it was 5-foot setback on that one. I personally was concerned about it because that just gives 10 feet between homes. That is a very small area. And I was concerned about it, and I had also heard from people that had bought homes that had that setback, that loved their home, loved the area, but didn't quite like the fact that their neighbor was so close. Another thing is I really am concerned about fire separation, because if I'm living in one of those homes and my house catches fire, I think the fire department definitely has an issue with, the one right beside me. Not that it wouldn't if it was 10 extra feet, you know what I'm saying? But I did call the Columbia City Fire Chief, and I did talk with him about it. And the fire department has to deal with situations after the fact. So when things are approved and things are reduced and changed, then they're the ones who have to deal with it when the issue comes up. The city ordinance for open fires is 25 feet from a structure. Okay, so it's kind of concerning to think about that. That's just one of the things that I'm concerned about. The distance, not giving people much room there, and also too, the fire protection is big as well. So
Those are valid. Those are valid points, and I'm not going to say that those aren't valid points. However, the empirical evidence that I can supply here is virtually every subdivision in Allen County has those 5-foot setbacks. So, and as I stated, they're not all utilizing the 5-foot side yard, but it does give flexibility for when they are trying to get a house in, a special house, and it doesn't seem to impact the people living in those areas. So with that being that tight, and as I tried to point out earlier, we didn't do an apartment complex here, which is the other way, where you have no distance. It's a wall. You've got 6 inches between you and your neighbor. So we were trying to give them single family homes, and the market seems to bear out that works, and that is comparable, or people are willing to buy that, especially if they can get a home, especially if it meets their price range, which is what we're trying to do here. And every foot that we add to that, they're still paying that in the lot cost, and they're not reaping the benefit for the house size, which allows it to be more livable. So yeah, you do get your separation, but you're kind of penalizing that person by having less of a house than what they could have, I guess, if that makes any sense. And then the other way with the fire code, I'm not a firefighter. I do everything I can to make sure that our developments meet, because there's a couple of things I tell the people at the office. I'm not gonna have my name on the front of the newspaper. Hey, this idiot engineer didn't design it correctly, and all these houses burned down, or they flooded. So we're gonna do everything we can to meet the code. And the building code for state of Indiana says that they're comfortable with the 10 feet separation from the foundation. So at that point in time, I think that they have done enough studies throughout Indiana that meets the fire apparatus, and fire people and are able to service that correctly. So that would be what I can suggest at that point. We have a development. I didn't bring this up, but there's one in Fort Wayne. It's on DuPont and Lima Road, right behind. There's a Walmart right there. It's called DuPont Meadows, and those are rent, but they look like single family houses, and those are as close to 10 feet apart as you can possibly imagine. And there are 250 homes in that, less than 30 acres, so it's less than this size. And there are 250 homes that was just packed in there. And I just looked at this last week for a client of mine. There are 6 homes for rent. So out of that rental of that 250 homes, there's only 6 homes that are for rent. So it is packed. So that 10-foot side yard, and they're closer to the road, and they really don't have a backyard. That's what people can afford right now, and we want to give them a actual home with an actual rear yard that they can put up their own fence and run their dog in it or whatever. So that's the intent. And that's the DuPont Meadows project. So we did that developer. They're a company out of Georgia that did this one, and they got BZA approval to be close to the street, and then also close to other rear yards and structures. So
Do you know what the zoning is for that?
they have a different one, but this was a R3 designation for them. Their zoning goes R1 is single family, R2 is really unused. That was a duplex. Then R3 goes into apartments. So it would be apartments. It would be, like they call them the yellow retirement community. Or if you're doing a 3-story apartment, that'll have to be in the R3. So that's what this particular issue is. And one of the things I didn't bring up, one of the things we are dealing with this development is we are putting sidewalks on both sides of the street. We're trying to tie this into Walmart. We're trying to give them a nice feel. They can walk to go have dinner. They can go to Walmart because their child needs whatever. So
The rest of the property, there's to the east and the north.
Yeah.
There's a couple future roads. What's
at this point in time, we'll be coming back to Plan Commission when those go. The idea at this point in time, so real quick, we have it's a traffic impact study that's been approved through NDOT for the connection at State Road 109. That's in the middle of getting all of that improvements going on. But the plan was everything out there along State Road 109, the highest and best use at that point in time is a commercial of some sort. Commercial moves slower. So they are marketing that, trying to get other people in place to buy those particular properties. And when those come in, they'll come in with their own primary that they'll have to come in and show this is what we're meeting. So we're putting in the skeleton, I'd like to call it at this point. So once we have the roads in, we're going to have the water and the sewer extended, detention in place, so that when these commercial buyers or investors want to come in, it'll be a more seamless process for them. We have the bones in. They're going to come in with their actual plan, get it approved through primary and their secondary routing. So that's the intent on that. But right now, we know that there's a dire need for homes, and so that's where we were starting on the west end with the homes.
Not sure if it matters too much, but in our discussion of Heritage Place, it also occurred to me the other place in the county where we have very common 5-foot side yards and even less is up at the lakes. And so we have even smaller lake lots up there. That's all, many of them are grandfathered in, but we do have a lot of new homes that are built with 5-foot side yards. And they occasionally do have increased fire ratings because they go less than that 5-foot. Now that's a special case, but again, we do have that comparable area too.
Thought some of those, at least some of them, they bought 2 houses and tore them down and built one.
That's not too frequent around Whitley County. Other lakes, yes, but for the most part, Whitley County, it's 1-to-1.
Okay.
We have had a few examples, but most are 1-to-1.
All right, any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of this petition? Anybody else wishing to speak against this petition? Okay, I will close the public input part of the meeting and open it up to the board for discussion and or a motion.
Nathan, with this kind of concept, that has been, presented here, has the Plan Commission even considered possible different zoning designations so that if a variance would not be required? Do you know what I'm saying? So if this is something that's up and coming, I'm just asking, has there been any thought or discussion about possibly creating a designation that they might be able to rezone a property to with,
So you're talking about a text amendment to create a new district that they then can rezone to?
sure.
Specific to this property, no. Using this as a jumping off point for such a district, I think would be a very viable thing. So seeing how this goes, seeing what works and what doesn't, and using that as a model for a future code, I think yes. But creating a new code specifically for this, kind of flipping that, no.
Right. And I guess, you know, when he's giving, you know, examples of all of these other counties that are doing this, you know, are not so much the district, but are doing this with these setbacks and these affordable homes and that sort of thing. It kind of makes me wonder about that and maybe the need for that.
I agree. Well, two parts to that. The comp plan, the newly adopted comprehensive plan, does talk about the need for a new district specific to our historic areas, because we have R1 applied pretty indiscriminately, because we want single family, but they're on lots that are 150 years old. The development standards don't match. So there's that component, but then there's a bit of discussion about cases like this and having a bit more. So I would say the natural thing to do would be see how something like this might go, learn from it, and then develop a code off that, as well as using all the surrounding areas and so on. Look at the lakes, look at Cambridge Crossing, and so on. So yes, it's a very good idea. I just would say that it may be more natural to do the opposite order of what you're suggesting.
I guess, you know, too, and kind of spinning off from what I just said, you know, I look at the Columbia City zoning ordinance. I look at section 1207 variances, and it's what the Board of Zoning Appeals is asked to look at when approving a variance. So I'm looking at this, and one of the things that we have the power to authorize, variances from the development standards, which include setback regulations. Of course, you know that. But then it gives us 4 that a variance may be permitted if all the following requirements are met. There are 4 of them. So I'm looking at these, okay? Number 1, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship with respect to the property. No, in my opinion, because we have 77 acres here. In order for us to create a subdivision plat to meet the requirements for the lot sizes of this particular current zoning district, which is GB. Number 2, such unnecessary hardship results because of unique characteristics of the property. No, because they have not presented anything that has said the topography, there's swales, there's creeks, there's cliffs, and you know, the topography does not lend itself for it to create such unique characteristics that are causing this hardship. The variance would not change the land use of the property or the character of the neighborhood. Again, a neighborhood under GB with the setbacks, we're asking for a variance of those setbacks, in my opinion, would change the character of the neighborhood by approving 5-foot setbacks for this particular district. Number 4, the variance observes the spirit of this ordinance, produces substantial justice, and is not contrary to public interest. That's probably one that can be debated. So, but that's my opinion. And, you know, as a board member, I just wanted to give my response to how I feel about the petition. So, and affordable housing for young people, I am most certainly think is wonderful. I applaud growth of this community, lived here all my life, and I have vested interest here. Plus 2, I have a great heart for this community. So having housing available for people to be able to move here, to be able to enjoy what we have here, to be able to work here, I'm all for that. Honestly, I am. So I'm just have concerns.
And what you're hitting on is, and the reason that I have the 2 sets of criteria on the slide is, as we discussed with the one particular case back in January, our current text is not up to the same, does not use the state standards, which is what's in the first half there and what I read off as a criteria. It uses an older set of standards. Now, that doesn't diminish what you're saying, unnecessary hardship versus practical difficulty. That is a very vastly different criteria in itself. Practical difficulty is a very low bar to step over. Unnecessary hardship is a much higher bar. The wording of the two pieces, I mean, you can compare those. So I totally get what you're saying, and especially when you compare unnecessary hardship for practical difficulty. I would probably agree that unnecessary hardship is, it's always hard to meet the criteria of unnecessary hardship with a blanket variance, such as this. Practical difficulty, it's easier to do a blanket variance because of that. But again, it's differences in perspectives, as you said.
And just to follow up then, for my clarification, in my profession, if the Indiana code changes, then our school policies, for example, have to change. That supersedes. What does this look like on this end?
This is on our to-do list to get the Plan Commission to adopt this code change yet this year. It just hasn't gotten to the Plan Commission yet because of the very large difference between the languages. So yes, but I can't say that they will adopt the practical difficulty standard either. That's something that they'll have to determine. They may adopt unnecessary hardship, or the state law does even allow a higher standard than even unnecessary hardship.
Okay, and we are 2 members short, so we have to have everybody vote the same way if we are going to get it passed at all this evening. Not sure if that's going to happen or not happen. So, does anybody care to offer a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve 26C variance 4 as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a seconded as submitted. Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion does not pass. So
under the rules and state law, in order for an official, you have to take an official action. So you either can approve the variance, deny the variance, approve it with conditions, or continue. So you've had a motion to approve, and that's not gotten official action. So you've got a couple other options here.
okay, since I'm acting as chairman, can I make a motion or not?
Yes.
I would make the motion that we continue to the, what would it be, September 1st
Yes.
Yes.
meeting?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to put this on the agenda for the September 2nd meeting. All in favor, raise your right hand. So moved.
September 1st.
September 1st, pardon me.
No problem.
Okay.
We will add that to the docket for September then.
And we do have a August 31st training session.
Yes. So, as BZA members, not you, Dennis, you have to come. The other two of you, it's optional. It's basically for you the same as any training session. For the plan commissions, it's an advertised public hearing being held by all 4 plan commissions as a joint meeting in respect to House Bill 1001 that was passed, telling us that we have to have a public hearing by the end of the year. BZA members, you're welcome to attend and participate in the discussion, and if you can, we'll pay you just like we would for a training session. But with the plan commissions, a quorum is necessary. So,
Will we, since it's got to be, will it be passed as one large group, or will it be passed as each individual?
oh, there is nothing to pass.
Okay.
So this
That
is
makes
It's a
sense.
hearing.
yeah. Yeah. Greg is right. It's a hearing without an item. The state has given us a laundry list of, I don't know, about a dozen different items that have to be discussed at a public hearing dealing with housing related to your communities. I won't go into all that yet. But the end result, the goal of the public hearing is to discuss those items in relationship to how they may or may not benefit your particular community. Then we have to take the minutes of that discussion and submit them to the state.
So after we do all that, at some point, do we ever say yes, no, approve? Never?
We will see whether anybody wants to make motions during this. There may be things like
We have some.
I make a motion that we prioritize reducing lot sizes in our community. That could be possible. I don't expect that, but the discussions may go that way. And the reason, besides the convenience on my part of getting them all together, is also that everyone can listen to each other and what's a priority in South Whitley versus Busco versus Columbia City versus the county. The municipalities are similar and the county has differences, but there are things that the county is doing now, secondary dwelling units, for example, that the municipalities may say, tell us how that works. Let's try and make that work as an ADU code, which is one of the items. So that's another reason for bringing everybody together, is to feed off of each other. Similar to any other trainings, a couple of the training sessions we've had before where it's been that open dialogue. But in this case, we're doing an open dialogue because the state's told us we have to.
So the state told us we had to, but are they telling us we have to have a quorum for each group or a quorum as a total?
I am doing that. We have to have, because it's a formal public hearing, to conduct a formal public hearing, you have to have a formal meeting. To have a formal meeting, you have to have a quorum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of each group.
I think it's each group.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have.
Otherwise, if you don't have a quorum of Columbia City, we will be advertising a second public hearing to do the exact same thing in November. Maybe October, but probably November.
Okay.
And I'm mostly looking at South Whitley because their attendance with the training sessions is pretty low.
It's been pretty bad.
Busco and Columbia City in the county, I think getting a quorum of those plan commissions here is probably not a big thing. I don't want to knock on South Whitley. They have things going on. I understand. But I want to make sure that they're involved if I can get them to be here.
Okay. Now that meeting on the 31st starts at 6.
That starts at 6, which is the normal training session
Training
time.
session time.
It is open to the public as public hearing. I don't expect a vast number of just general audience.
I'd take the bet on that.
I am inviting. I haven't yet, but I am inviting real estate agents and builders, developers. So heads up for you, 31st of August. Whoever might be involved with housing in Whitman County. And there may be others, Mission 20, 25, 21, 25, I couldn't remember which one. They might be interested as well. Habitat for Humanity is trying to open a chapter, so that might be another person I might invite as well. So haven't given too much thought to the periphery invites, but the core ones I do have a list I put together to send out yet this week too. But who knows, we might have a large contingency of general population here too if we somehow get that word out. I don't know. My colleagues who have done this public hearing so far, the general consensus is among the ones who did not do specific invites, they've had about 2 people in the audience, and those were there for other items on the agenda. So it's not been a very highly
offer free martinis. They'll show up.
Might be how we get the planning commission members here. Are you suggesting?
No, I didn't say that. In particular, there was a few of them though.
Oh yes. But also a few lessons learned from some of my colleagues. Even the ones that didn't have public participation, the planning commissions did use it as an opportunity to do some self-reflection and so on. And so if we're doing it individually, I would expect that. As a group, I would expect that plus that inter-jurisdiction dialogue as well. Hey, what are you doing? What's different? How are we? What's working for you? What doesn't work for you? That might work for us, and so on.
Okay. At one of the future training meetings for us old folks who are not as computer literate as we used to be, I personally would like to get some training on the new BZA, how I get in there and find what I need to find to get ready for the meeting tonight.
Yep, we will do that. I think our last, because we have 3 training sessions this year, and the last one's what, November or December?
No, I thought it was this one. I thought August was the last one.
No, I believe there's one in November as well.
Is there? Okay.
Is there? We'll look and see.
I thought this was our 3rd.
November 30th.
November 30th. So that one I think is a good one, being kind of right after the holidays, a little bit lighter of a topic. So we'll just slate that in there. We might add a couple other things, but I think technology, some more kind of nuts and bolts, sort of how to be nuts and bolts stuff, I think we can do.
Any other business on your part?
Oh, just to let you guys know, I spent the day up in Hammond visiting a data center up there for the county's benefit. It's a very relatively small data center, which does give me some thought that perhaps Columbia City might have potential viability as a data center location at some point. Not the hyperscale stuff, 700, 800, but this is one that's on about 20 acres or so, and about 150,000 square foot building. So something like that might be something the city might be looking at, possibly. Well, there's a lot of infrastructure needs that we don't have right now. Nobody's looking at us right now. So it may make sense once the county's got something settled out for data center code for the city to maybe come back. And the reason other than just mentioning it, odds are the BZA would be entrusted with some sort of special exception review of standards. Seems to be a pretty common way of dealing with distilling out the ones that are permitted by right, which are typically the accessory ones. Hyperscale are typically very zoning intensive and a lot of zoning commitments. And then you've got the ones in the middle, like this would be potentially, that might have special exceptions and so on. So right now we're not planning on a city data center code, but I'm kind of wondering whether we need to consider that, let the county develop one, and then kind of backpedal into what might be appropriate for the city. So maybe that's coming, maybe that's not. I got nothing else though. I'm getting tired.
All right.
Amanda, was there anything else we need to tell them?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'd accept the motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, go home.